It is 9 o'clock in Athens, Greece. That would make it 9 o'clock in Kiev and 10 o'clock in Moscow. And here's my morning update. The first story we need to talk about is Mariupol. And the Donetsk People's Republic issued a statement yesterday, not the Ministry of Defense of Russia, but the Donetsk People's Republic. So just keep that in mind, where they said that 50% of Mariupol has been cleared, liberated, in their words. And, what does that mean? 50% has been cleared out or liberated. Alexander, in his video that he made, he believes that 50% number most likely means that 50% of the city center has now been cleared out. And I agree with that. I think all the signs point to the fact that the outskirts of Mariupol, the bulk of the city has been cleared out. The fighting is intense. It's a tragedy what's going on in Mariupol, but 50% of that city center has been cleared out, and what you're probably looking at is some other sections in that city, some other sectors in that city, which need to be taken care of. The Chechens are on it. Just keep that in mind. The Chechens are there, and they're going to clear it out. From what I understand, and I think this is pretty credible information, most of the Azov battalion, you got to remember, the best fighters in Ukraine, the best Azov guys are located in Mariupol, 14,000 of them. Well, most of them are pinned down in a steel factory, in like a steel plant. And that's where the bulk of the fighting is taking place. So if you imagine a city that's been a city center, let's say has been divided into 4 or 6 sectors. I guess you could say that, say it's 4 sectors. I guess you could say that 2 of those sectors are cleared out, and you have another 2 sectors to go, and one of those sectors may be where this steel plant is located. Something along those lines. I'm giving a very simple kind of explanation as to what the DPR probably meant by their statement. Another thing that they might have meant by their statement is that noisy. They're putting in fiber optic lines, I guess. I'm going to take a detour. I'm going to change of plans as to where I'm going to walk towards. So another thing that they might have meant by the 50% statement is, one sec, is the news that we're getting that an Azov battalion force of 14,000 troops who were in Mariupol, entrenched in Mariupol, has been whittled down to 7,000 troops. Now, I think this is pretty credible as well, and that's significant. Think about it. You had 14,000, a huge number, a number that at first I thought it was 3,000 or 4,000 Azov guys that were in Mariupol, but we later found out that it was around 14,000, and now you're getting credible sources that are saying that those 14,000 are now just 6,000. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean half of those guys escaped, half of them surrendered, were caught, were annihilated? I don't know. There are a lot of videos of the Azov guys trying to get out of humanitarian corridors, and some of them are even dressing up like women in order to kind of sneak out. But the Russians are capturing them. They lift up their shirts and they look for the tattoos, and they sniff them out. But 14,000 to 7,000, that's significant. So, maybe the DPR in their statement saying 50% has been liberated, maybe they were meaning maybe they were also meaning that you've had 14,000 troops and now it's down to 6,000 or 7,000. So that's the update with Mariupol. And we are now in day 27. So day 27 of this special military operation. And it looks like to me that the Russian military is in their groove. In other words, they've got a routine now. And the first 2-3 weeks, things were pretty pretty crazy, and we had a lot of fog of war, and we still have a lot of fog of war. But we didn't really know what was going on. We didn't have a clear understanding, you know, what the Russian military was up to, how Ukraine was going to react, the Ukraine military, how the fighting was going to play. And I think now on day 27, we have a much clearer picture. The Ukraine military they've been completely cut off. They've got like 4 or 5 different cauldrons, encirclements. Communications lines are cut. Ammo depots, supply lines, logistics have just been torn apart by the Russians. And while the Ukraine military, maybe they can mount some tactical wins, for the most part, there's just not much they can do. I mean, you're not looking at a unified, cohesive military or fighting force anymore. And so the Russians are kind of in a routine where they're just grinding down the military day by day, week by week. And the reports that I have is that the advance of the Russian operations, they advance every day anywhere between 5 to 20 kilometers, 5 to 15 kilometers. Every day they're gaining ground, day by day, week by week. That's pretty incredible when you look at the size of Ukraine and you factor in the fact that the Ukraine military was 8 years entrenched in the east of Ukraine, and they were prepared to mount their own attack on the Donbass. So they had a really big force lined up in the Donbass. They were deeply entrenched, very well prepared, very well funded, a lot of NATO training, a lot of NATO guidance, and the Russians they're just grinding through them now. It's pretty incredible what's taking place. And just to give you an idea, let me read to you. Let me find a place it's a little more quiet and pull out my phone and just read to you an article, an excerpt from Moon of Alabama. Let me go up this side street here, which kind of, I think, gives a good picture as to the day-by-day progress of the Russian military and how they're just grinding down the Ukraine military, while at the same time working the diplomacy angle. You always have to keep that in mind. As they grind down the military, they're working on the diplomacy angle of things. So this is from an article that I saw in the Moon of Alabama, and I will put a link for that article down below, but here's an excerpt. And what it says is this. According to the Pentagon, the Russian Air Force yesterday flew 300 sorties over Ukraine, mostly at night. That are 50%, that is 50% more per day than last week. That means 300 Ukrainian weapons factories, ammunition depots, convoys, and fighting positions get destroyed every day, day after day. How long will it take until there are no more targets? I thought that was a really interesting excerpt from this article, and it paints the picture of what's going on. Think about it, 300 sorties, day by day, every day. Ammo depots, barracks, mercenary training facilities, supply lines, every single day. So yeah, I think everyone gets the picture. Going back to Mariupol, real quick, where a lot of people are saying, what's going on in Mariupol. My answer to a lot of that is just, the Chechens are on the case. So, I mean, we know that the Chechen military is there. And once again, I said in a past video, the fact that the Chechens are there, I think, kind of means that the outcome is pretty much done. They're going to clear it out. They're going to clear it out. And it's a hard fight in Mariupol. A very, very hard battle there. A terrible battle. But yeah, so what else? I want to do 2 more stories. Another story that I want to talk about is the NATO meeting that is going to take place in Brussels on the 25th of March. Joe Biden is flying to Europe. He's going to be in Poland, and then he's going to take part in this NATO meeting, a special emergency meeting. And we are getting credible reports that one of the aims of the meeting is to draft a document condemning, not Russia, China. You heard me correct. They're going to actually, NATO's going to actually draft a document where they condemn China, and they're going to condemn China for possibly or potentially supporting Russia, whether it's through economic means or military means. Now, we don't have the exact statement. We're just getting credible reports from credible sources that NATO is starting to put this statement together, and they're formulating and structuring this statement. But it is going to be aimed at China. I think that's fascinating. We have the sanctions that are just gearing up against China as well, that Blinken announced the other day. And now you're going to have NATO poking the, not the bear, but poking the dragon a little bit more. Why all of a sudden have we had this narrative shift from Russia to China? It's a very interesting narrative shift. And I'm very curious as to why they are doing this, why NATO and the Biden White House is all of a sudden going after China in this way. Reckless, absolutely reckless. And this is just going to lead to a systems collapse of epic proportions. But they're pushing forward. The momentum is taking over, and the momentum is leading them off a freaking cliff. So I thought that was really, really interesting that we're seeing a narrative shift away from Russia being the baddie to now China being the baddie. Let me know what you think about that. I think it's a very interesting development, and putting NATO in on it, getting NATO involved, well, that's not going to be good. That is not going to be good at all, and China's not going to take kindly to such statements. And finally, the last story I want to get to everybody are strikes. Strikes in Spain. We have a trucker strike, and the Spanish government offered the truckers €500 million in subsidies in order for the strikes to stop. The strikes are causing all kinds of supply problems. The truckers are striking because of fuel costs and inflations and the fact that they can't make a living and they can't survive under these economic conditions, which are self-inflicted by the sanctions that Europe imposed on Russia. And I have to remind everybody, to this day, Russia has still not retaliated against those sanctions. This is all self-inflicted. All of this is self-inflicted. And the truckers in Spain are protesting, and they're saying we have demands and we need to be heard. And the Spanish government is saying, okay, here's $500 million, but we're not going to ease the burdens of value-added tax on fuel costs, and we're not going to do various other things. And so the trucker said, the subsidy is fine, but you have to do more. And I think we're going to see this play out all over Europe. We're going to see these types of strikes, and we're just at the very beginning. And obviously a trucker strike doesn't alleviate the problems with supply chains and inflation, does it? When truckers start going on strike. So this is a really big problem for Europe. By the way, we have the Volkswagen plant in Bratislava in Slovakia has had to close down for 2 days because of supply chain issues, because of the sanctions that have been put in place on Russia and the conflict in Ukraine. And I have to say this over and over again. We are still at the very beginning of this economics war. Sanctioning China is not going to help things out either. And we still haven't seen the Russian retaliation. So, it's looking bad for Europe. Really, really, really bad. Anyway, guys, I am going to leave it there. I may do a follow-up video a little bit later on. And for now, for this morning update, I will leave it there, theduran.locals.com. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the video he did where he discusses Mariupol as well, that he put up yesterday. And the Duran. Check out our channel, the Duran. Take care.